Good morning, everyone. I'm Melissa with Beck Technology. We're so sorry Mike was not able to make it today, but we have Jon Bowser with us, our product manager here at Beck Tech. John's going to be talking a little bit about the cost history feature within Estimator, and afterwards we will have time to take some questions from the audience. That being said, Jon, if you want to take it away.
All right, thanks, Melissa. Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us this morning. So cost history, that's a big one. With 2019 1.0 Estimator, we've now introduced the idea of cost history into our system. We've transitioned to a database backend, so now all the estimates you create from here on out are now easily accessible from the cost history standpoint. We've spent a lot of time talking to existing clients and prospective clients about, what does cost history look like to them? We've heard concerns, we've heard ideas, what they want to do. All that conversation always comes back to they want to make sure they have the right data in the system. They want consistent data. That way, when they do mine this data out, in a month, 12 months, 2 years, whatever it is, they have what they need to get the information they want. So that all really starts inside of DESTINI Estimator. So I've got Estimator open here now. What I've got on my screen is our templates. One of the ways that we have provided to make creating that consistent data easier is expanding our template capability. So with templates, they can be set up for any number of ideas, project type, owner, whatever it may be. And as part of that template, when you go to create an estimate from that template, you can provide some basic information about that project. Some of it's standard information, name of the estimate, some client information, where's it located. But everyone wants to track data a little bit differently. So we've provided the ability for users to say, okay, for historical reasons, I really care about this information so that I have it later on to do my data mining, my cost history analysis. So we can see that down here in the bottom of this window. You can see I've called out project type and structure type. These properties can be as many as you want, as little as you want, and whatever you want. So when creating a new project, you have the option to encourage the estimator to say, okay, this is in this case a hospital and it's a concrete structure. So now anybody creating a hospital from this template will be guaranteed to say, hey, it's a hospital, and they can kind of specify what structure type they want. So it's those little things that we're now doing to encourage that consistent data going forward with cost history. Now, once you're inside of Estimator, Estimator is Estimator. You don't have to do anything different to make sure this data gets into the cost history system. So just the normal day-to-day workflows, adding my costs, doing my 2D takeoff, my fee structures, my classification structures, all that is just automatically introduced just from your normal day-to-day activities. And that's what makes our cost history system great. You don't have to learn anything new. You just do your normal day job. Now, once you've gone through and finished your job, you've been doing this for weeks, months, a year, everything is now in a database backend. So that allows us to do a number of different things. So we can serve that data up to any number of tools that you may be comfortable with. Excel, Power BI, Tableau, Domo, whatever these tools are that you and your company are familiar with and comfortable with, you can use those tools to now mine this data out and look at it in any way you want. Because it is database backend, every company looks at things a little bit differently. So we can also tailor fit that data to how you guys look at your data. So we do provide what we call SQL views on the data to make it very simple to interact with. We have a handful of those to use out of the box that you can tie into. But if it's missing data it's important to you, or you just you think about that data a little bit differently, we can tweak those views to serve it up however makes sense for y'all. So there's not a lot to show on Estimator just because the workflow is normal. So I'm just going to switch to a dashboard that we've built. This is just an example of the kinds of things you'd be able to do now, leveraging all of that historical data in the database. So in this case, I'm using Power BI, but like I mentioned, you could use Power BI, Excel, Tableau, any number of tools to pull this data out. And you'll see here, I'm actually pulling data from our centralized database, and I have a couple of different sheets to look at this data. Here, I'm just looking at very high-level metrics about the volume of work that I've been doing. I can easily see where across the United States I've done work, the amount of work I've done in those different regions. So if I hover over this, I can see that I've done a hospital in Colorado for about 100 million. I've done a little bit of restaurant work in California. I have actually a bigger makeup of jobs here in Texas. I'm spanning hotels, hospitals, restaurants. So I can very easily see that information. Some of the power of tools like Power BI, I could even click on stuff and it actually kind of isolates that data in other parts of the dashboard. So even if I am looking at a very high level look at the information, I can very quickly narrow in on what I'm doing here. So outside of looking at just regional data, I can see the volume by the building type. So I can see, hey, how much volume I've done in a hospital, how much I've done in a restaurant. I can look at the progression of a job over the course of its history. So I can see, okay, at 10% CD, this hospital was here. But as we got more refined drawings, it grew in cost, the scope changed, and details were just refined, and you kind of track information that way. Really, however you track that data is completely up to you. These are just a couple of examples of how I can now look at that data, whether it's for trend analysis, looking at volume of work, what regions are struggling, where are we really booming, whatever you care about, that can be shown here. And this is just high-level data. It doesn't have to be high-level data. I can also drill down into more nuts and bolts. So here I'll switch to a different tab, and now I can start seeing costs, in this case, by different breakdown structures. So maybe I want to say, okay, let me look at my costs by uniformat. I can come in here and say, you know what, really I care about looking at my costs by uniformat 1. So I'll have my costs now restructured by that. So I can kind of see, okay, at this point, I'm looking at a total cost of 40,000 in a substructure, 30,000 in shell. Just like before on the other page, I can still click on individual pieces of this data and have that filter out and show how does that actually correspond across the board. So I can now specifically see, okay, for the St. Martin Hospital, specifically it is 21,000 of that A substructure. So having all this interrelated tied data makes it very easy to see how one job contributes to the whole, or just what specifically is in a single job. And this is really just one of a handful of ways of looking at this data. The great thing about this, the whole idea of the historical costing, it can be whatever you need it to be. You can look at the data from the standpoint of systems. You can look at the data from the standpoint of structure types, cost breakdown. If you need to get into accounting codes, it's however you want to get that data. Then this is just ultimately the beginning. We're just kind of getting rolling with this system. Over time, it's going to grow and change. We'll be working with clients day in, day out, just learning now that they have this data at their fingertips, what makes the most sense for them. Whether it's creating new estimates from that historical data, whether it's comparing estimates to as-built numbers, whatever that may be, it's all out there. Everything is a possibility, and that's really the beauty of it. However you can think about looking at the data, we can help make that happen.
Awesome, that's great. John, thank you so much for walking us through that. It looks like we have a few questions from our audience, one of which is from Laura Malik asking, how do you utilize the software to help with design and system selection, and as well as how do you utilize it to compare conceptual costing? Could you kind of go in depth about that?
Yeah, so we showed a little bit earlier on with Estimator, when creating those projects, being able to specify what type of project it was, what kind of structure it was. If there are facets of project that you care about, whether it's certain types of design decisions, like maybe you're looking at cladding schemes or system selections, you can provide that type of high-level data in those estimate properties, so that when you do come now and look at that data, you can break out the projects by certain types of design elements or certain systems. It's really about setting your data up for success in the front run, and then you can leverage that later on once you're now analyzing that data. Now, as far as how do you utilize that to compare the conceptual costing? It is as simple as, in this case, I've got on this screen, I've got about 10 different projects. You can build these dashboards to either pull up projects of similar types, dissimilar types, same region, different regions, whatever you actually want to compare across estimates, the estimates you want to compare, you can pull them up side by side and kind of see how do they now marry up, not just from a costing perspective, but maybe by the design perspective or system selection. Whatever it is you want to actually do that comparison on. Now we do have that comparison functionality built into DESTINI Estimator that provides a pretty granular look at the data. So you can continue to do estimate comparisons within DESTINI Estimator, or if you want to take a step back and just look at higher level information, compare a lot of data at once, you can use tools like Power BI or Excel or Domo to do that, kind of like I've done here.
Got you. Okay, thanks, John. Another question that we have here is, what is the real advantage of this particular cost history solution over other products that are out there on the market right now?
Well, the beauty here is it can do whatever you need it to do. Your estimates are your cost history. And with everything being in a database back end, we can now serve that data up however you need it to happen. Without building it specifically into the product, by exposing it this generic way, it can be massaged to really look however you need it to look. That way you're not forcing a square peg into a round hole. You can now actually tailor that data to the way you need it to look.
Awesome. That's great. And you talked about flexibility, right? You're working with these dashboards. There looks like there's kind of some concerns around, how often does it refresh? Is it configurable? And how easy is it to create one of these kinds of dashboards?
So, all that's kind of dependent on the tool. We've used a number of tools. They're all pretty straightforward, easy to do. It doesn't take an IT guru to set up a dashboard like this. We've actually had interns within the company help us build these dashboards up very quickly. Refreshing can be as simple as don't make it automatic. I just want to press a button to do it. Or you can set up regular intervals, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, multiple times throughout the day. Depending on the tool, they have different ways of forcing those refreshes. But ultimately, you can always manually refresh with any tool that I've looked at so far.
Okay, awesome. And then I think we've got one last question here to just kind of close this out. Is there any way of controlling which projects that you want to include in the cost history, and kind of tied in with that? Do you have a way of giving permission to who has the ability to create a version?
So yes, you can definitely control which estimates you want to have for your comparison purposes or for your cost history purposes. In this case, I've pulled back all the estimates from our database, and so I can either set filter rules up to say, hey, only pull me back certain types of projects, or only pull me back projects of certain sizes, certain locations, or specifically say, hey, I just want to look at estimates, A, B, and C. All these tools are very capable of doing that, and it's really just as simple as setting up a filter to say, this is the criteria I care about for pulling back my projects. Permissions-wise, because this is all in a database backend, this can be configured really to your heart's content about who can and can't access this particular data. A lot of ways this data is kind of guarded, so to speak, is if you are using programs like Power BI or Tableau like that, just simply not having the software is another way to prevent people from getting at the data. If they're using things like Excel, the cost history here at this point is being pulled from that database. You don't have to worry about if I were to come in here and try to tweak this data, would that now overwrite data in my estimate? It doesn't work that way. So you don't have to worry about the information kind of being backfed into the estimate. It is protected just from the way the tools themselves work.
Okay. Thanks for really diving into that, John, and taking the time to kind of explore that. I think that's all that we've got here for now. I want to let everyone online know that you will be sent a recording of this webinar, and everyone who's registered for it, even if they weren't able to attend, they'll get a recording of that as well. We are also going to have another webinar coming up on May the 29th. with Mike Boren, our CTO. So make sure that you sign up for that as well. Jon, thank you again so much for taking the time to do this, and we will see you guys next time.